Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. It's 10 a.m. here in Arizona. We're waiting for one more person to fill this MLB best ball draft this morning. Hope everybody is having a fantastic Friday. I have a little opportunity to sneak in a draft, so we're gonna do it. Let's see. Just before, as we wait for this one person to fill. Um, by the way, if you notice this guy right here. Uh, Last night when I streamed, it sounded like I was just a little far away, so I tried to bring it up closer. If that helps out, awesome. I just wanted to give it a little more full sound. Felt like I was a little too far away. I'm going to shoot you guys in over here in just a second to my DK draft while we're waiting because it's my pick. And I did not prepare an agenda of things I wanted to talk about prior to this filling. So, okay. So just give me a second so I can jump in here and then I'll screen share as we wait for one person. Okay. So let's see. Where's my slot here? So DK draft. I'm not even sure which one this is. I think this is a like a $4 something or other. So I picked ninth. Obviously, best ball on Underdog and DraftKings are slightly different. One thing you'll notice if you normally draft on Underdog, you're probably looking at this draft board going, whoa, guys are going crazy for infielders and pitchers. And they do on DraftKings. I tend to keep a very similar strategy. I don't think that it's that much of a difference. But my strategy is basically going to be just go hard hitters and then stack a ton of pitchers and just chase 2-start weeks. So I picked Jordan at pick 9. Now, I normally don't like to do a ton of early drafts, but because it's DraftKings and typically the quality of the player is a little bit lower, I figured, hey, I can do a couple early drafts and probably get away with a couple stacks. So as you notice, I'm going to be able to get Corbin Carroll here at pick 16. So I got Alvarez and Carroll. This worked in my favor this time. So yay. All right. Looks like we got this Eliminator draft filled. Whoa, I'm back. We got 30 seconds until we start. Let's find out our draft position. I am 12th. Whoo. How do you like that? So I'm the bookend, and that also means we have a lot of time to hang out. So it's probably going to take about 5 minutes to get to me. I can talk about who I'm going to target, all those fun things. Pitchers and catchers are reported at this point. I actually live super close. So I'm in Arizona. I'm actually in Goodyear, Arizona. And I'm literally across the street from the spring training ballpark for the Guardians and the Reds. So I went for a walk yesterday, and I've actually only been to that ballpark once. And it was quite a while ago. But beautiful ballpark. I'm probably going to end up going to 15 to 20 games this spring. At least that's the plan. But and I know a couple guys in the minor league system for the Guardians. So if anything, I'll probably swing down and watch a couple of their games as well. All right, so everything looks like it's going chalk right now. Show high. I want to make sure. Oh, you guys are all looking at me. Sorry about that. Here we go. This is a little more interesting. This is why you're here. Okay, so everything's chalk so far. Ohtani, Judge, Witt, expecting Soto here. There he is. Now it'll get a little interesting. We're going to see Carroll, Tucker, Ellie De La Cruz. We've got somebody in here. Welcome in. Good morning. Hope you're having a great day. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day if you recognize it. My girlfriend and I went out last night. We typically don't like to go out on Valentine's Day because it's a bit of a mess. But we went out last night, casual dinner. But my anniversary was actually like 2 weeks ago, so I kind of get off easy, knowing that my anniversary and Valentine's Day are so close, and they're right up against Christmas as well. So I do get off a little easy. I will make dinner tonight, so So there's that, and we'll see what happens. So right now, Gunnar Jose. Let's see if this guy goes Mookie. If he does, that'd be great. I can get Tatis. Otherwise, I'm going outfield. Even though Mookie's there, keep in mind this is Eliminator. So guys who do get hurt, guys who miss time, are a huge negative in this setup. This guy is auto drafting, so he's definitely taking Tatis, unless he has his picks preset, which he doesn't. Okay. So I'm going to go Schwarber and Duran. Yes, I go Duran ahead of J-Rod. I really like. So do I think that Julio's do I think that Duran's better than Julio? Not necessarily, but Julio obviously struggled last year. He's gotten off to slow starts his first 2 years in the league. Dealt with some injury challenges last year. The Mariners' offense is not very potent. The ballpark is hard to hit in, especially the first half of the year while it's still pretty cold up there. I feel like Duran for this format is a better outfielder. If it was, I'd probably take Duran if it was not Eliminator format as well. But either way, we'll see what happens. We'll see if I get my mind changed. But I like Duran. He obviously runs consistently. Feels like he's really coming into his own. All right, so there goes Betts. This guy picked up Tatis and Betts. So when it comes back around again, most of the infielders are going to be gone at that point. So I'm going to be looking at, I shouldn't say they'll be gone, but unless Devers or Riley gets to me at 36 or 37, I'm not taking Alonso or Seager or Machado right there. So for me, I'll be looking at two more outfielders. I'll just start stacking outfielders like crazy, and I'll probably look at like Happ, Santander, Reynolds, and Steer. Those are normally my go-to guys. So we see Julio dropped all the way to 17, but nice stack right there with Jordan and Julio for sure. I like to knock my outfielders out. Everybody's different. For me, it's just a matter of personal preference. I feel like I can find better value for infielders later. I feel like I have trouble finding value for outfielders later, but it's more of a comfort thing for me. Having a decent amount of outfielders up top in the top 100 picks just tends to make me feel a lot better about the flow of my draft. So good morning. I know we've got a couple people popping in. Feel free to jump in the chat and say hi. I guess I could also jump in the chat and say hi. Welcome in. Jackson Merrill at 20. Let's see. I feel a little more comfortable with Chiriot than I do Merrill. Simply because I feel like Chiriot runs more. He got off to a slow start last year. If he can kind of right the ship the beginning of this year, I feel like he could put up some numbers. I feel like his baseball savant numbers are a little sketch, but baseball savant isn't like the end all be all in terms of like barrel rate and swing velocity and those kind of things. It's good information. Don't get me wrong. I use it a lot, but I do think that some guys just are good at baseball, even though their baseball savant numbers may not always reflect that. So, all right, welcome in. Good morning. Happy Friday. Happy Valentine's Day. All right, so we are picking 12th, by the way. Started off with Schwarber and Duran. Just missed on Tatis. All right, well, the guy who picked Ohtani also picked Acuna, so that's great. Sounds like the Braves are really going to take their time with Acuna. Remember last time when he came back, they kind of rushed him in, and then he was dealing with soreness. They had to sit him, and he didn't have a great year in 2022. 2023, he comes back fully healthy. He goes bananas. 2024, he ends up hurting himself again, and here we are. So sounds like the Braves are definitely going to ease him in. May not even start the season with the team. So there goes Austin Riley. Great value here for 25 and 26 to be able to pick up Freeman and and Olsen. Obviously, if Harper drops all the way down to 36, I will take Harper as well. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. I don't know if it bothers you guys, but it's been bothering me that I do not have anything behind me. I looked at trying to hang up something today, and I thought the space was a lot smaller behind me than it is. So it's going to stay empty for the time being. But it does kind of bother me that it's so vacant. I feel like I'm doing the stream out of like a abandoned apartment. Okay, so we've got Harper and Devers that are still sitting there. Whoo, Alonso all the way up to 30. Good for him. Okay, there goes Harper. So, like I said earlier, my main targets here are going to be like Happ, Santander, Reynolds, and Steer. Scooble's gone. Wheeler should be going sometime around where I'm going to pick. I am not going to be taking Wheeler, just a FYI. I will take my security blanket outfielders. There's Harper. Devers is still there. Devers is no longer there. I will not be taking Trey Turner. Next three infielders, just so you know, because I know you can't see that sheet. Next three infielders on ADP, average draft position, are Turner, Marte, and Seager. Do not expect any of them to go before I pick. Next five outfielders are Wood, Happ, Reynolds, Harris, and Steer. And then, of course, you have Zach Wheeler still on the board. So there goes Wood. One more pick. I'm going to get two of these three outfielders. This works out perfect for me. Woohoo! I think I'm supposed to overreact and start high-fiving myself and jumping off the walls or something. But I'm not going to do that because I'm a grown-ass man, and I just can't bring myself to do it. So, and come on, it's just Ian Happ and Brian Reynolds. Let's be serious. Okay, it's just Brian Reynolds and Spencer Steer. Still a little worried about that shoulder with Steer, but not enough to replace him with Michael Harris. So my outfield right now, Schwarber, Duran, Reynolds, Steer. I am set. With the exception of any injuries, my outfield looks exceptional. What I'm going to start looking at right now is we go on the back end. Obviously, it's going to be a while till we pick, right? So normally, if I'm lucky, I'll be able to grab two stud pitchers. So obviously, Wheeler's still on the board. There goes Wheeler. You're going to be looking at, I'll just pull it up. It should be Cease, Gilbert, Cole, Burns, Crochet, and Reagans. And Crochet typically goes around 50, like early 50s. Cease goes late 40s. And then you kind of just don't know what you're going to get. Obviously, there has not been a lot of pitchers taken in the middle right now. Picks 10 and 11 have both taken a pitcher. So we'll see how this plays out. If I can get two studs, I will. If I can get one stud, I might. It just depends who shows up on the infield side. I'm definitely open to taking Marcus Semien. I don't typically take Jazz, although he was healthy last year. I still have questions. I'm still a little skeptical. If Jazz was in the outfield, that'd be totally different. But with his infield eligibility, I just don't love it. But I will earmark Semien. On the outfield side, I'll earmark Garcia, Arozarena, and Suzuki. My outfield looks so solid right now that a lot of times I would go with at least one more outfielder, but because of the start, I think I'm okay. I might just wait and see if I can get like Taylor Ward to come back around the 80s. All right, so I'm going to queue up all these pitchers real quick. That's Cease, Crochet, Gilbert, Burns, Reagan's, Cole. And Cole has actually dropped to the bottom of ADP, which is fine for me. I actually value him pretty high. Okay, there goes Garcia. Nemo went at 42. Apparently nobody's worried about his plantar fasciitis like I am. But so anyway, we'll see how this goes. Wow, Suzuki goes early. Garcia goes early. It obviously these have no effect on me because those guys likely wouldn't have got to me anyway. There goes Butler. Definitely starting to see Garcia go ahead of Butler. So if you were drafting for the last couple of weeks, you probably got a lot of value with Garcia in the early to mid 50s. But it looks like people kind of woke up a little bit, and they're starting to take Garcia earlier. At least that's what I've noticed in the last 2 days. So we're 15 minutes in. We're about to start the 5th round. I am picking 12th. I'm aced out on the board, in case you didn't notice. Feel free to say hi. Feel free to punch the like button. I feel like I am not the end-all, be-all of best ball streaming or best ball experts per se, but I do feel like this is a great opportunity for those of you who do play a lot of best ball and who do stream. This is an opportunity for you to see kind of how the flow goes. Obviously, I give my insight as to what I'm doing. If we end up drafting against each other once in a while, I'm not overly worried about it. I think it's great that we have differing opinions. So if I feel like I'm not interested in Corey Seager and you think Corey Seager is going to make another run at an MVP, then more power to you. That's fantastic. Some guys like J.R. Burke 87 here, who's gone 4 infielders, completely the opposite strategy of mine, where I'm going 4 outfielders. But I think the difference of opinion that we have is what makes best ball great. So I don't expect everybody to listen to what I have to say and to take it as gospel, because it certainly is not. But I have now completed over 100 best ball drafts. So if anything, I have a good idea of where things are going in the direction the draft goes in. So I feel like that is probably the value or expertise that I could bring to the table. And by the way, I've drafted every single one of my drafts. I have not auto drafted anything. I've definitely fallen asleep a few times during drafts, but that's just poor planning on my part. All right. So if you guys have any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to type it in the chat. If you just want to play me in the background while you're doing other stuff, you're at work or whatnot, then I totally get that. That's fine too. So we're coming up on my pick here. We're at 58. I'm at 60 and 61. There's 3 of those pitching studs on the board right now. Simeon was taken. Bretton Doyle was taken really early at 54. So for me, I would earmark somebody like Castellanos. Okay, there goes Luis Robert. I'm going to end up with 2 of these pitching studs. I'm not going to take an outfielder. Which 2? That's the question, right? The way I would rank these is Gilbert, Cole, Reagans. It's like Z Wiffles is on auto draft here. Oh, he is on auto draft, isn't he? These people. Okay, so I'm going to take Cole and Reagans. Got my and the reason why I like taking, I'm not huge on taking pitchers. I think most of my best drafts are drafts that I just take position players and outfielders, infielders. But personally, I feel like there's a big drop off after Reagans when it gets to Snell and Sale. Obviously, Sale's a stud if he stays healthy. But after that, and you look at Nola, and let me pull it up so I can actually throw some names out there. Nola, King, Pablo Lopez, Framber Valdez. I feel like there's just a big drop. Those guys who you're taking from Reagans above are all guys who can win the Cy Young. And not to say that a guy like Michael King can't or Pablo Lopez can't, but I think the likelihood is just very low. You get one of those studs in a 2-start week, it's just going to be massive. Now, Blake Snell just went at 63. Obviously, injury concerns about Blake Snell. I love Blake. I think he's a great pitcher. He's great. He seems like he's very charismatic. He's fantastic on interviews. But the way that the Dodgers are going to try to roll that rotation out with a 6-man rotation means that getting 2-start weeks out of your Dodger pitchers is going to come into question. Now, that doesn't mean that Roki or Glasnow or Snell or Yamamoto or Kershaw is not subject to injury, because we know that all of them are. So they may end up either burning the bullpen and having to make a change, or having to deal with an injury and just moving back to a 5-man rotation anyway, or going with like a bullpen day. But the way I look at it is it's not worth it. It's just not worth it for me. So I rarely draft any Dodger starting pitchers. I'm also a Padre fan, so I'm a bit allergic to Dodger starting pitchers. Not that I won't take a bat occasionally, but if I can avoid it, I will. Okay, there goes Cowser at 69. So my plan was take those 2 stud pitchers, see if I can get like Taylor Ward to come back. Would even be open to Cruz. I normally don't like to take rookies. Quan would be ideal. I normally don't like to take rookies or unproven young guys in Eliminator. In Dinger or the other standard full season formats, not a problem. You roll with the upside, see what happens. But in the Eliminator, Dylan Cruz starts off 2 for 45. He's going back to AAA. If Spencer Steer starts out 2 for 45, they give him a day off. It's not a big deal. So that is part of it. And I think a lot of us learned last year with Jackson Holiday that nothing's a given. I mean, if anything was going to be a given, it was going to be that Jackson Holiday was going to rake last year. And then it didn't work out. Didn't work out for me and didn't work out for a lot of people. So I learned my lesson. Oh, by the way, I'm going to queue up Abrams and Vientos right now. I don't expect either of them to get back to me. I'm also going to queue up Kirby. Just in case things get a little wild, I'll queue up Kirby. All right, just checking in. Looks like we lost a viewer. Somebody clearly was offended. Okay, there goes Sale. Sale went 8 spots lower than 80 EPA. And you'll see that occasionally. Sale I feel like he either goes 70 or he goes 80. But he just went, he went at 78. Framber went early at 75. There's 3 picks. I've got 4 queued. So this is working in my favor right now. I'm going to have too many options is what it's going to look like. The way I have these guys queued up is Quan, Ward, Abrams, Kirby. Would love to get Quan right here. I'd be stoked. I'm not getting Quan. There goes Quan. I would have been stoked if I could get Quan at 84. I think he's great for this format. Just didn't work out that way this time. So I'm going to be looking at Ward, Abrams, and Kirby, depending on what happens in these next 2 picks. There goes Bregman at 82. Bregman is now going 20 picks ahead of where he was going at 2 days ago. I mean, you could get Bregman at like 105 and 110 2 days ago. Now he signs with the Red Sox, and people are starting to lose their minds. We'll see how it goes. I think a lot of those Crawford box home runs are going to end up being doubles in Boston. Okay, so Taylor Ward made it back. Not that that's a huge surprise, but it's good for me. I'm going to take Abrams here because we need to get started on that middle infield. I'd love to take Kirby, but that's not going to happen. I'm going to take Taylor Ward. Okay, so I've got my 5 outfielders. I'm not completely shutting off the outfielders, but for the most part, I'm not going to worry about outfielders for a while. What I need to do the next time it comes around is grab 2 infielders. I would have loved to have grabbed Kirby, but at the end of the day, I need guys that can hit. And Abrams, if Abrams wasn't there, I would have picked Kirby because for the most part, I wasn't going to take Bregman or Caminero or Justin Naylor with that pick. And I know all those guys were drafted ahead of time. But I wouldn't have taken any of them with that pick. I like Abrams because I feel like his floor is 1,200 and his upside is 1,500 to 1,600. So their lineup should be much better this year. We'll see how things work out with Cruz and also Wood. Obviously, team's very young, but they did bring Josh Bell back, who had a phenomenal season when it was a national, and Nathaniel Lowe, who's a very consistent hitter at and first baseman. So I do think that lineup is much better than it was last year, and will at least last opening day. So I think that that should benefit Abrams, and hopefully Abrams. I don't know. I don't want to say. I hope he got the help he needed, but I hope he got his head screwed on straight and he's focusing on baseball, not getting caught at the casino at 5 a.m. So during season, not a great thing to do during season, especially the day before a game. Okay, so point being, I like CJ Abrams upside. So Kirby goes at 91. Now we saw a little run on pitchers this round. Lopez, Webb, Yamamoto, and Kirby have all gone. The reason why I wanted Ward right there, by the way, is I feel like after Ward, there's a big drop off from like 90 to 130. Now, that's just me. I really like Lane Thomas last year heading into 2024, and it just did not work out. He's the next guy right there. Peter Crow Armstrong, I'm not completely sold that he's going to hit yet. Tyler O'Neill, injury concerns. Jorge Soler, I just don't know what I'm going to get out of Jorge Soler, and he's going to play with the Angels, and you just don't know what's going to happen there. That I just don't feel comfortable with it. Rafaela could be really interesting. I think he's a 1,200 point player as long as he plays every day. And then you've got JJ Bleday and Kerry Carpenter. I like both of those guys. Lourdes Gurriel, I wouldn't take. Jung Hoo Lee, I wouldn't take. Matt Wallner, I need to see he's going to play every day. Cedric Mullins, I'm a little concerned about his ability to stay healthy. I do like Evan Carter at 146. Obviously concerned about his health, but I feel like 146 is good value for Evan Carter, who they're talking about having potentially hit leadoff. So if his back is right. You hate to see a guy like that, especially a young guy, having some back issues. Okay, so I'm going to be targeting infielders when it comes back to me. Unfortunately, Casas and Adley were already taken. Not that I expected Casas to come back to me at 89 at 108, but it definitely felt like Adley, who normally goes around 112, had a legit shot to come back to me. So if my infielders aren't there, I'll pivot, but I'm going to mark Tovar right now. I'm not opposed to McLean. I don't love the idea just because I feel like there's too many unknowns, but I will be taking 7 infielders right here. And when it comes back, 132, 133, all the guys who I target for the most part, except maybe Volpe, are going to be gone. Most likely. So Royce Lewis, Vinny, Westy, those guys will likely all be gone by the time it comes back to me. From a pitching standpoint, I normally love taking Zach Gallen right here, but obviously he's off the board too. So am I going to take Hunter Brown here? No, I'm not going to take Hunter Brown. So I will be taking 2 infielders. The question is just going to be, which 2 am I going to take? I'm going to take Tovar. And am I going to take McLean? Or am I going to take Vinny or Westy? No, I'm probably just going to take McLean and Tovar. Well, this guy's on auto pick, right? So he's going to take McLean. I'm going to get forced to take Tovar, and I'll take Vinny, which is really early to take him. But I'm not going to take Eugenio. I had a lot of Eugenio exposure last year, and I have to tell you, he was trash most of the season, and then he went absolutely bananas towards the end of the season, and that was great for best ball playoffs. But at the same time, most of it was like when the season was done. So he just didn't contribute very much to my best ball teams. And so what I learned is, Eugenio's the second half guy. Not buying on. I'm going to look. I'm just going to check these numbers out really quick because I'm talking through feels, and I feel like I should probably just get some realistic data here. So let's take a look at his splits. I'm going to pull a Baseball Reference. All right. Bear with me here. We're looking through these splits. So last year, yeah, he went absolutely bonkers in July. So he only had 6 home runs through June. And his OPS April, May, June was 0.667, 0.505, 0.576. He was not good. And then all of a sudden, July hits and he goes bananas. His OPS is 1.131. August, it's a respectable 782. And then September, October, 1.029. Goes nuts again. So, okay. Where's the pre-post? Oh, first half, second half. There you go. So first half of the season, 93 games, he hits 10 home runs. His slash is 216, 303, 366. He's terrible. I'm in Arizona, and people were talking about what a huge mistake they made by getting Suarez. Then second half, he goes absolutely bananas, plays out of his mind, hits 20 home runs in 65 games, and which would put him on a pace of like 50 to 60 home runs in a full season. His slash line is 307, 341, 602. Monster numbers in the second half. So if you're drafting him propelling off that second half, yes, it does make sense that you would take him in the top 120 picks. But because I had him last year and I lived through the first half, I just cannot buy into it. That's just me, personally. He's going to be 33 years old. I don't think that's too old. He does. I'm going to pull a Baseball Reference real quick. I'm sorry, Baseball Savant real quick. Because I want to take a look at how those numbers would have, how those home run numbers would have looked in other ballparks. But if you look at his spray chart, which I'll pull this over. So, okay, there goes Suarez at 118. So now we're starting to do a little deep dive, right? All right, I'm going to change the share so you guys can see what I see on Suarez. So the numbers are solid, right? Keep in mind, he hit 22 home runs the year before, 31 before that. So we look at his numbers, his Savant numbers. I'm just kind of moving them around a little bit. Here's what I want you to notice. In 22, when he had 31 home runs, look at where his home runs are. He's going all over the place. A lot of oppo shots, a lot of deep center shots. Last year, almost everything is pull. He got super pull happy in the second half, and it worked out. 23, it's a little bit everywhere. Obviously, it's more heavy on the pull side, but you still have him hitting the ball everywhere, at least over the wall. So let's look at his numbers. I'm 7 picks away, FYI. Okay, so last year he hits 30. We go over to Arizona, he would only hit 29. I don't see anything big here. Obviously, when he had his biggest home run years, he was in Cincinnati. But if you ever look on this section on Baseball Savant, everybody always goes nuts. All the right-handed hitters always go nuts in Cincinnati. Like if they would have played in Cincinnati, they would have put up 15 to 20% more home runs in their career. It's just wild. So, for example, Suarez has 260 career home runs. He would have 292 if he played all his home games in Cincinnati. So, anyway, let me swap this back here so we can get ready for the pick. We don't want to accidentally punt a pick here. Oh, Westy almost got back to me. Almost. That would have been great. So anyway, that's kind of my real quick deep dive on Suarez and kind of how I feel about him. So we've got 3 infielders. 130. I'm definitely not taking. Let's see. I do like Carpenter and Blade. Oh, this is the guy who. Oh, this is the guy who auto picks. So I was hopeful for a second that I was going to get Bryce Miller, but because this is the guy that auto picks, he's going to end up grabbing Miller. So I'm going to look at another pitcher. As much as I'd like to take an infielder, they all got scooped up, and I'm not interested in reaching. I'm not interested in reaching here. I'm going to go Blade. JJ Blade. I like Carpenter and Blade. My outfield's really good. Okay, I'm going to go Seth Lugo here. Did somebody take Rodon? No, Rodon's there. Okay, so I can take Rodon or I can take an outfielder. So you see me struggling with this a little bit. The reason why is because I have what I would consider 4 stud outfielders and 5 solid outfielders. So I don't necessarily need to do that. Okay, so I'm going to bounce on the outfielders here. So the thought process for me is I want to try to strengthen my pitching just a little bit. Obviously, I would have wanted to ideally grab an infielder like Westy right there if I could have. Paredes would have been great as well, but that didn't happen, so I had to pivot. And for me to pivot, I would have normally gone with the outfielder there, but because my outfield is so strong right now, I know I can look at it's probably going to be around pick 180, and we'll see if this happens. It might just blow up in my face. But around pick 180, I should be able to grab somebody like TJ Friedel or Brandon Donovan. And depending on how the flow of the draft goes, sometimes both of those guys show up at 180. Sometimes they both get drafted before 165. Because it got to me and Blade and Carpenter were both still on the board, it's giving me the vibe that outfielders are going a little bit later. So I should be able to get one of those 2 guys at 180. We'll see how this plays out in about 7 to 10 minutes. But that is the thought process. So for me, I'm thinking, you know what? I like Kerry Carpenter, obviously a little concerned about his health. I like JJ Blade. He's still kind of young, but if TJ Friedel can stay healthy at the top of that Reds lineup playing in Cincinnati, that's very favorable. I like Donovan at the top of that lineup. I don't think he wows anybody, but he puts up points, and he sets a high floor because he's fairly consistent. So if I can get one of those guys later, awesome. But I'm going to be looking at Luis Ariz and likely a pitcher when it comes back to me, and then we'll try to dive in and grab that last outfielder. So anyway, I just kind of I wanted to walk you through the thought process that's going on in my head. Like I said, I'm not the end all be all. It could be right. It could be wrong. Everybody's going to have a different opinion. I didn't like any of the infielders that were there. So we can see that Mason Wynn and Jackson Holiday have been taken since then. Only 2 infielders were taken in this round. And then you have Yandy Diaz, Michael Toglia, Cal Raleigh, Luis Ariz. And it's highly probable that Luis Ariz does not make it to me because infielders are getting taken early. But I wasn't going to overdraft him either. I'm completely okay taking 2 more pitchers if I need to right here. With that said, I will queue Ariz up. I don't necessarily want to queue Bomb up, but most of these pitchers are going to be gone before it gets to me. But I'm going to queue up Flaherty and Kikuchi, Gill, Why do I feel like Justin still got overdrafted? Maybe it's just me. 160. Yeah, so those are the only three I'm going to queue up. Okay, and there goes a rise very early. Evan Carter, ADP 146 right now. He's still on the board, so I'm kind of curious to see how that's going to play out. Anyway, we're in the 13th round. For those of you who've been following along, or for those of you who just jumped in, I am picking 12th. I am the backside bookend of this Eliminator draft. You can feel free to jump in the comments if you want to say hi, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts or feedback on guys. If you don't and you just want to listen, that's totally okay. Obviously, I do a lot of talking. And if you're watching this on replay and you want to reach out, you can find me on Blue Sky at Steve Adler or on Twitter at Steve_Adler. I'm always happy to talk best ball. Talk anything baseball, really. Okay, so Evan Carter went 151. That's 5 picks lower. So we'll see how that plays out now. Obviously, the infielders are still going early. What is this? What? Okay, Luis Gil is still on there. This is not ideal for me. This is where things apparently are going to fall apart. Okay, so I'm likely to go 2 pitchers right here. And you've got Ronaldo Lopez, Jared Jones, Luis Gil, Robbie Ray, Mackenzie Gore, and Sean Manaea. So Rise got overdrafted by like 12, and then only one other infielder. Giancarlo Stanton is the next outfielder. So what we should see coming up here is going to be a run on pitchers. And I'm going to start that with Gil and Gore. Now, keep in mind, I only have 3 infielders right now. I need to start stacking infielders very aggressively. I'm going to target an outfielder with my next pick. And that's going to be that's going to be either TJ Friedel or Brendan Donovan. And there's plenty of outfielders ahead of him. Giancarlo Stanton, a lot of power. Giancarlo, Jacques Peterson, Byron Buxton. Then you've got Friedel, Abreu, Conforto, and Donovan. So the likelihood that one of those guys is going to get to me, I still feel like it's pretty solid. From an infield standpoint, I can start to queue a couple of these guys up, like Nathaniel Lowe, Ryan McMahon, Nico Horner, Jeremy Pena. But I'm probably going to, the problem is that I'm next to Z Wiffles and he's an auto picker. So any value that I could potentially get with a guy who dropped is just not going to be there. He's not going to make it to me, as we saw with like Bryce Miller. Now, the problem with Z Wiffle in his auto draft is the fact that he's got an absurd amount of pitching right now. He's lined up at 8, 3, and 3, which I want to say it'll max out at 9. Not that that's going to matter a ton for me, but unfortunately, when he maxes out at 9, any value that I could potentially get from an infielder dropping to me, he's going to snatch. That's just the way it is. Then things get a little wild. You're able to value. Guys tend to overdraft because they see that it's not, you don't have a couple auto drafters in there. Auto drafters, it always just kind of kills things. And hopefully one day the guys at Underdog will figure out that once somebody starts auto drafting, they just need to set them on auto draft or autopilot, as they say. This having to wait 30 seconds because the guy didn't show up to the draft blows. It's a complete waste of time for everybody. So if we just made those guys, have to wait an extra 30 seconds before they could do something. I'm sure they'd fix this real quick. And by the way, this is issue on DraftKings. DraftKings fixes it. If you miss your pick a few times, it will throw you into autopilot. And that way the flow of the draft keeps going. And I don't think it needs to be an instant pick, but give it 5 seconds and then have a pick. If a guy doesn't come in, it's got to go. And I say that as someone who drafts late sometimes, and it is miserable if you're doing a draft at 11 o'clock at night and you got 4 guys on auto draft. All of a sudden, a draft that should take 30 minutes is taking 50 minutes. It sucks. Okay. Only Giancarlo and Jacques are gone. Nathaniel Lowe went. Oof. This is going to be a little. My infielders are going to be sketch. I might actually take 6 infielders. I'm 6. I might actually take 8 infielders because my pitching is solid. Cole, Raggins, Lugo, Rodon, Gil, Gore. I don't love it. I'll probably end up taking another pitcher, but maybe in the last round. But for the most part, I feel like if I've taken 6 pitchers through round 14, my pitching should be better. And it's just not. Outfield's great. Infield's okay. Welcome in, welcome in. We are in the 15th round of this best ball draft. Okay, so it looks like I would have had a shot to get TJ Friedel, but I won't because of Mr. Auto Draft here. Which means I'm probably going to line up to take Brendan Donovan and Ryan McMahon. Okay, there goes Friedel. All right. Here we go. Oh my gosh. Both these guys I apologize. But it's like the all your money guy wanted to take all 30 seconds. We already know Whiffles is going to take all 30 seconds. So he's going to take Abreu. And then I'm going to take Donovan and McMahon. And then he's going to take Edwards. That's what's going to happen over the course of the next minute. I am going to double check my pick. Part of me really wants to take Pena instead of McMahon. Okay, so he took Abreu. I'm going to take Donovan. Just double checking to make sure I'm not missing out on somebody I really want. Nope. I'm going to take. Yeah, I'll take McMahon. My only apprehension about taking McMahon was because I have Tovar. And as I'm sure you guys know, the Rockies are peaks and valleys, depending on if they're at home or not. And I don't want to have too many eggs in one basket when it comes to the Rockies. I'm not as worried about guys like Doyle, I guess. And I probably shouldn't worry about Tovar as much, but McMahon is definitely a streaky guy anyway. But we're going to go 7, at least 7 infielders anyway, so we'll figure it out. With that being said, I need to start queuing infielders like crazy. We got 17, 18, 19, 20. I will try to sneak in a pitcher if it works out. So I'm going to queue up Neto, Young, Edman, Geloff, Bogarts, Terang, Contreras, and Bush. I'm going to look at something real quick. I'm going to look at Hoskins. Because I feel like Hoskins last year, I don't know if they handled him with kid gloves or if he just wasn't able to hit, or if the Hoskins I remember from 2022 was just that good. But I'm gonna look up Hoskins, and I'll do the screen share on this so you guys can see this too. All right, so I'm looking at Hoskins. We're still 13 picks away. We have a ton of infielders queued, so not worried about that. Let's look at standard numbers real quick. So he played 131 games. They obviously gave him plenty of days off. 156 the year before, and you can look at all this red, right? 10th in the league, 8th in the league, 14th in the league, 11th in the league. Look at that. 65 extra base hits in 2022. That's massive. Last year, he had 40 extra base hits. That is a major drop off. How old is Hoskins? 31. So there's no reason. And this number is definitely attainable. Look at that, 11th. Obviously, strikes out a ton, but whatever. And he plays in Milwaukee. I'm starting to talk myself into this, in case you didn't notice. Now, this is the big concern. You look at this in 2022, and then you look at this in 2024 and go, what happened? Wish we really had bat speed back then. Obviously, we don't. But those numbers are fantastic. Look at the spray chart. It's just raking. So now I know this probably requires a deeper dive than what I'm doing right now in terms of like, what was he looking at count-wise? We can look at splits a little bit here. He didn't annihilate lefties like he should have. Look at this. In 2022, he absolutely crushed lefties. 286, 387, 558. 2024, 218, 323, 455. So that's a huge issue for him. I am, by the way, going to get ready to pick. I'm going to leave you on this Hoskins page for just a second so we can get back to it. We have the slow drafters, don't we? And they're going to probably going to take Young anyway. Tanner Houck might make it to me. If he makes it to me, I'll take a 7th pitcher. And Pavetta has not been taken yet, so good to keep an eye on that. All right. So what I'd be curious about, like obviously we can look and we can notice that that Hoskins just didn't hit left-handed pitching last year like he normally does. So 2021, he hit left-handed pitching really well. 2020, he crushed left-handed pitching. Last year, he just didn't hit left-handed pitching. If that changes, is he back? Now, he's not available for me to take right now, so I'm not jumping into that. I am going to take Young. I do like Josh Young, and I'm going to take Tanner Houck. Tanner Houck Tua. So that's going to wrap up my outfielders and my pitchers are wrapped up now. And just so I know you guys can't see this, let me. I'd switch back. I'm going to leave you on Hoskins for just a second. My pitching is wrapped up. I've got Cole, Raggins, Lugo, Rodon, Gill, Gore, and Houck. My outfield, in case you joined late, is Schwarber, Duran, Reynolds, Steer, Taylor Ward, and Brendan Donovan. My infield is soft. Abrams, Tovar, Vinny, McMahon, and Young. I'm going to grab 2 more infielders here. We're probably going to have to get a little creative, but we'll grab 2 more infielders. Right now, just a heads up, I've got Bogarts, Terang, Contreras, and Bush queued up. We'll see who makes it back. If one of them, I would expect one of them to make it back, but probably not both. So when we look at Hoskins, I mean, you have to be a little concerned here. Is the bat speed not there? I'm trying to remember. I thought he blew out his knee. And I feel like I need to talk to a Brewers guy and find out, like, did he go on the IL last year? Did he? I see that somewhere. Did they just nurse him? Sorry for the screen bouncing all over the place. I'm just trying to find that, because I don't feel like he hit the IL at any point. Oh, okay, he did hit the IL. So they signed him. He hits the IL. Okay, so I'm going to look at the splits. I really want to know how he hit before going on the IL. How was his April? How was his May? Was it terrible? And then how did he bounce back in June? So April and May actually weren't bad. And then he came back in June, July, August, he was terrible. I mean, the power is there. At least it was in June. Oh, I'm sorry, in July it was. But, man, this is tough. I don't have any Hoskins exposure. Any. But the more you deep dive in here, it kind of makes it hard to feel like he's going to be able to get back to 2022 levels. Obviously, if he does, he's great value. And we can, I'm going to take a quick look. Hoskins put up 1,300 points in 2022, 1,002 points. I should say 1,002 points in 2021. So the upside for Hoskins is not great. I mean, he had a really good season for him in 2022, and he scored 1,300 points. Last year, he scored 983. So the way I would look at this is his floor is probably 983, or 900-ish if he can stay healthy. And his upside is probably 1,200, which is a shame, because when you look at that 2022 and you think he's playing in the NL Central and a lot more hitter-friendly ballparks, maybe he's a 1,400 guy. But after seeing last year, I just feels like he might be on the back end of things and not on the upside. So with that being said, let me switch back here. I don't normally get an opportunity to do dives like that, and obviously because I'm on the bookend, it's a little easier for me to do that. And unfortunately, the auto drafter is going to take Terang right now, so I need to scatter and find an infielder I feel comfortable taking. Where are we at? Okay, he took Suarez. I'm going to take... So unfortunately, he is going to take Terang. I don't normally take a lot of Giants. I mean, if there was a Giant that ran like crazy, then I'd be interested. But Tyler Fitzgerald is a guy who's really interesting, because he played a little more than half the season, 15 home runs, 17 stolen bases. His numbers look great. Now I'm going to be that guy who takes forever, right? He finished up at 753. He's probably going to be an 11 to 1,200 point guy. First round pick, 27. Don't love that. Hits lefties and righties well. Pre-post, really super consistent. All right, so I'm going to go Fitz here. Normally I would take Jimenez, but let's roll the dice a little bit. Their lineup should be a little better. They've got Adames. I'm going to pull up. Gosh, what am I thinking? Fangraphs, specifically roster resource. And they've got Fitzgerald hitting 7th, which is not ideal. But we'll see what kind of year Ramos has. Yastrzemski, I feel like he's always on the verge of not being on that team. He's kind of like invisible all the time. Wilmer Flores. It feels like some guys are pretty excited about Patrick Bailey. We'll see how that turns out. Roster Resource has Jung-Ho Lee hitting 3rd right now. That is not going to last. Jung-Ho Lee is a 7-8 hitter. And yeah, that's just not going to last. So if we look at Jung-Ho Lee's OBP last year was 310. Fitzgerald was 334. Fitzgerald had the best. Actually, I'm sorry. He had the 2nd best OBP last year. Lamont Wade had a 380 OBP. So, yeah, Jung-Ho Lee's not going to hit 3rd. That's not going to last. So I understand he's a lefty and they may want to switch. They're trying to get that righty-lefty thing going. But at the end of the day, you need guys who are going to actually get on base. So I'm not feeling that. So I took Fitz. I do like Fitz. I don't love the ballpark, but I mean, if he can go 25 and if you can get a 2020 guy in the last round, that's valuable. And he should definitely be a 2020 guy. Jimenez, we'll see how he plays in Toronto. But they had a really nice offense last year in Cleveland. But he only hit 9 home runs and 30 stolen bases. And they moved him from the top of the lineup to the middle. We'll see how that works out in Toronto. He could hit leadoff in Toronto. We'll see. I don't think Toronto really knows what they're doing, but he could hit leadoff. All right, let me see where we're at here. I'm going to try to jump in another eliminator, piggyback this. I know that's right now we're waiting for 4 people. So that is not ideal. But we'll give it a few minutes. I'll kind of talk through, kind of kill a little time right now for the next couple minutes. And if we see that it's trending the right direction, we can try to hold on. But otherwise, we'll give it a few minutes before we bounce. So a couple things to look at. So if you're drafting or you haven't drafted a lot of eliminators yet, keep in mind, this eliminator is probably going to wrap up before next weekend. But they will launch another eliminator. It'll be the Little Eliminator 2. But I always like to look at who people are taking the last 2 rounds, because that kind of gives you a little idea of like, am I missing a guy? And when I look at this, we can look at Morel going 218 is interesting. That was a guy who was getting drafted all the way up into the 12th round last year. Most of the time he goes undrafted. Carlos Santana goes at 220. That's interesting. Obviously, the apprehension with Carlos Santana is the fact that he's 38 years old now. Clay Holmes. I've seen a couple Clay Holmes. Obviously, we don't know how that's going to play out. I would not expect Clay Holmes to put up a ton of innings, but he might be a guy who ends up getting shut down or moved to the pen at some point. By the way, this has worked really well. We're only waiting for one person in that eliminator draft. Servino, Hertz, Suarez, these are all the same guy. Gavin Williams right in there. Scherzer I probably wouldn't take here just because you're worried about injury, of course. Bowden Francis, a guy who should be able to throw 150 innings this year. Waka, if he stays healthy, he's really solid. I've taken Waka and Charlie Morton and Merrill Kelly a lot. Wow, we filled. Okay, so let's switch over. We're going to be able to roll this in. Let me bounce here. I am 3rd. Fantastic. So we got to see 1 on the back end. Now we'll see 1 on the front end. That'll be great. Taylor, my guy, are you jumping in here? Oh, you're 9th. Fantastic. I appreciate that. So yesterday, Daniel jumped in and he picked 4th and I was 11th, or maybe I was 10th. But he was in the chat while I was drafting, which was really cool. So Taylor, having you in here, that's fantastic. Taylor's going to be drafting 9th. I'll be drafting 3rd. I will be going Juan Soto. I'm assuming Sketch Boy and Axe Hind are going to be going Ohtani Judge. I've only seen one time that it has not gone Ohtani Judge in 105 drafts. So I don't expect this to be the second time. I'm glad we can't steal each other's guys. Yeah, tell me about it. Don't worry, I will still take plenty of Rockies, but I won't intentionally do anything to hurt you. My strategy is pretty steadfast at this point. I'm going to end up taking Witt, and then probably like Freeman or Olsen, and then in 27 is probably going to be like Ozuna or Riley. And there is Ohtani Judge, as expected. I'll take Soto. Now, I would take Witt over Soto if I felt like I was confident in grabbing 2 outfielders in rounds 2 and 3. But the reality of it is I'm not. I'm not confident in taking the young guys like Langford and Merrill that early. I also get a little sketch about Ozuna. So I'll still take him, but I feel like he had a career year. And as we all witnessed last year, when you take guys that are coming off career years early, sometimes you get burned. So I just get a little worried about Ozuna that high. I mean, I guess we could talk about Rooker too. All right. Okay, so Gunnar Henderson goes 5. That is congratulations, Taylor. That's going to impact you. So you're going to be able to. Everybody's going to bump up a little bit for you. Ellie goes 8. That's nice value for Ja. JCH Lawyer, I have drafted against him a ton. Ja is looking familiar. I feel like Ja. I drafted against Ja yesterday, and I believe he auto drafted. He got a ton of value picks, but he was auto drafting. So Jordan Taylor, Jordan was amazing last year. Obviously, the only concern about Jordan is his ability to stay healthy, but Jordan's so good. So I went out to dinner last night with my girlfriend. We did Valentine's Day a little early, and we went to Red Robin. Obviously, nothing extravagant, but she does enjoy a good burger. So we went to Red Robin, and MLB was doing their top 10, and I believe Jordan was 6. I think Betts was 5, which was really surprising. Not that Betts is fantastic. It's just that, being healthy should be part of the equation. And, Betts he gets dinged up all the time. He's a little guy. So we'll see what happens in the infield. But Jordan is just so good. And I didn't even realize how many games he was able to play last year. I'm going to check it right now, but I want to say he played like 145. 147. Most of his career last year. And his baseball savant page obviously is always amazing. But when you look at the amount of red that he has from last year, just top 10, top 10, top 10, top 10, top 10. It's so impressive. Such a good hitter. And it seems like the Astros finally figured out, just let him be a DH. Just you can throw him out in the outfield once in a while, but just let him be a DH. The guy is here because he hits. Just let him do his thing. There's no shame in that. I know he's like 27 going on like 38, but just let him be David Ortiz and let him rake. All right, what do we got? Hoping Ellie fell. So, yeah, Ellie at 9th would be something, right? Ellie dropped 1,600 points last year, and I feel like he's kind of scratching the surface. He could definitely be a guy, especially because he plays in that ballpark. But he could definitely be a guy who is a 1,900, 2,000 point guy, which is insane. But what are you going to do? I don't think I think Gunnar getting drafted on the back end of the round is pretty standard. Okay, I better figure out who I'm drafting here. So nobody's really going to fall to me. I'm hoping for Freeman right here. So Matt Olson got taken ahead of Freeman. Yeah, so this is going to be pretty easy for me. I'll go Freeman. Sorry, I thought one of the animals cruised in here. Okay, so I took Freeman. Obviously, Freddie's super consistent. I'm going to queue up Ozuna. I'm not planning on. Yeah, I'm probably going to take Ozuna. I may take Austin Riley, but I'm not going to take Merrill or Langford. Okay, there goes. Oh, okay, there goes Ozuna. So he took Harper and Ozuna. Apparently, the guys behind me or in front of me, however you want to look at it, also have some concerns about outfield. Oi. Okay, so Riley goes. The nice thing is I have my choice of outfielders here, right? I'm going to go Rooker. And it's not that I don't like Jackson Merrill, because I absolutely love Jackson Merrill. But in spite of the fantastic year he did have last year, he still only scored 1265. He's just not a guy who really fills up the box, so to speak. And so what's his upside? Is his upside going to be 1,400 this year? He does play in Petco. Like I said, I love him as a baseball player, but I have a hard time drafting him that early. I know his ADP is 21. Rooker, on the other hand, definitely had a career year, 1,400 points. I would be concerned that he could repeat that. The move to Sacramento, I think, is really going to help him out as well as the rest of the Athletics offense. So hopefully, I do expect him to take a step back, but hopefully with the ballpark adjustment, it kind of makes up for it, and he can still end up in that 1,400 point range. All right, Taylor's up 33. Jordan was going like 6 for a lot. He's fallen 9th recently. I have, I normally take Tatis early. I'm a big Tatis guy this year. The way Tatis hits home runs in Petco, it doesn't really affect him too much. Don't get me wrong; he hit more home runs somewhere else, but I just feel like I'm just not worried about it. Ian Happ, Taylor, I absolutely love your start. Jordan, Julio, Happ, what a great start. I'm hoping for some scraps in the outfield at 46 and 51. We'll see how that plays out. I'm not going to take guys like Seager or Machado at 46. So for the most part, I'm just going to be taking whatever outfield to show up my way. Probably going to be like Garcia and Rosarena, maybe Butler, maybe Nemo. Look at Pete going 35. Okay, J.R. Burke is stacking pitchers early. 51 is going to be too early for me to take one of those stud pitchers. So I'm going to end up missing out on those stud pitchers. I'm likely to stack as many infielders and outfielders as I can, and then roll in and just start annihilating the pitching in the second half of the draft. So Burke took a really long time to take Marte. Not really sure why. Okay, there goes Spencer. I'm going to queue up some outfielders for myself here. Trey Turner is there. That's nice value. He's likely not going to get to me, but I will queue him up. Trey Turner, I thought he would play better in Philly. It has not happened for him. Okay, James Wood is still on the board. His ADP is really starting to straighten itself out. There he goes, six spots lower. That's more or less where he should be, though. Taylor grabs Trey Turner. Too many T's. Great value there, Taylor. Garcia, Arozarena, Suzuki. All right. So there goes Nemo. So I stacked up a bunch of outfielders. The only outfielder I'm not going to take is Trout right here. But there goes Garcia. We just talked in the last draft about how Garcia's been going higher and higher. So he was a guy you could get in the early to mid 50s not too long ago, and now he's going at 43. So, and I think he went at 45 in the draft earlier. There goes Butler. Michael Harris is still there. Michael Harris is not there. I'm going to go with the Arozarena here. All those infielders came to me. Seager, Machado, the guys I said I wasn't going to take. At 51, that does change the equation a little bit. Dylan Cease is going to be there as well. Dylan Cease is not going to be there. We'll see. Hopefully one of these guys takes Crochet. I'm queued in on Suzuki. I am going to queue up Machado just in case. I do not want to touch Seager. Okay, there goes Seager, thankfully. I mean, I like Seager. I think he's great. I'm just not – I'll take him in Dinger. I'm not going to take him in Eliminator, though. There goes Suzuki. Okay, so I'm going to be in a tough spot here if this guy takes Machado. That might actually force me to take Crochet. Or Gilbert. Okay. All right. He took Jazz. I'm going to take Machado. This team is obviously going to have a lot of balance. 2 infielders, 3 outfielders. I thought for sure I was going to be able to grab 2 outfielders right there. But, I mean, Suzuki was getting drafted like in the 60s. And now everybody's getting on the hype train for Suzuki. So, is what it is. I have a buddy. He's real big into crypto, and he loves to text me any crypto news. And honestly, he's a great guy. I love the guy. I'm not like a trader, so if I see an opportunity to buy Bitcoin because it dropped, I'm not that guy who's just like jumping in. Like I'll have some Bitcoin or some Solana or Ethereum or whatever it happens to be, and I'll just have it and I hold it. But for the most part, he's like so hyped about altcoin season. And so he's anything that pops up, he's like, hey, check this out. And I always have to remind him, I'm the guy who buys after it already went up. So I'm like the worst person. I figured that out a few years ago. I'm the guy who everybody dumps on. So just don't do it. Just buy what you want, hold it, and just go with it. Okay, so where are we at? Crochet goes at 58. Burns goes at 57. Nice pick, Taylor. I would have loved to have grabbed those 2 studs, but I'm just going to be going outfielders and infielders right from here on out. I'm really hoping I'll be able to get Kowser at 70. I feel like it's a long shot. He was going later, like in the mid 70s before, and now he's been going the mid 60s. But we'll see if enough infielders and pitchers get taken. Doyle's still there. That's exciting. Yelich is there. Castellanos, Robert, Kowser. So there's a shot. There is a shot. Christian Walker. Love Christian this year. I'm not going to be taking him. Vientos. I mean, I would take Walker if he dropped to me, but he's not going to drop to me. He's the top infielder on the board right now. Oh, and he's off the board right now. There goes Doyle. Let me look at the pitching. Raggins is still there. Absolutely love him. And he's definitely not going to make it to me. He probably won't make it past Taylor. So I'm going to be hoping and praying here that one of these outfielders gets to me so I can get my fourth outfielder before things get too choppy. Probably going to need to queue up Quan. Cruz, Quan. Nice job, Taylor, with Raggins. Great value. For you to be able to get Burns and Raggins right there. Raggins or Raggins? Raggins. But for you to get both those stud pitchers in the 9-hole is really impressive. You're putting together a hell of a draft. All right, there goes Snell. That guy got excited about pitching. Good for him. Hopefully somebody grabs Yelich before it gets to me. There's Yelich. Okay, so things are starting to kind of bounce my way a little bit here. I do appreciate that. So the likelihood that I get one of these outfielders is solid. It's okay. It's a definite now. I'm feeling that. The guys behind me, the guy in the 1 spot has 3 outfielders. The guy in the 2 spot the guy in the 1 spot has 3. The guy in the 2 spot only has 1. So I have got to grab my outfielder. There goes Castellanos. I'm going to grab Cowser. I feel like that's a victory for me. Not that I wouldn't love to get Luis Robert. Yeah, maybe I should have drafted Luis Robert. Too late. So I am going to be looking at 75. I've got Vientos queued up from the infield, but I'm mostly looking at the outfielders. Just want to get that knocked out. And then when it comes back around again at 94, we'll take a look at guys like Naylor, Casas, I guess Bregman. Okay, there's Prof. There's Pablo. There's a chance. There is a chance. Oh, my God. Okay, so that worked out better than expected. So I got Cowser and Luis Robert. Obviously, Luis Robert, I have a special place in my heart for Luis Robert because I worked with him on some headwear, and he was super easy to work with. I do think if he stays healthy, he's an absolute monster. The ability to stay healthy, it's the elephant in the room, right? So normally I would have taken Quan right there. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to go Vientos or if I wanted to go Quan. I would have absolutely taken Quan right there, but I didn't have to. I also did have Cruz queued up. He would have been he was my backup plan, but either way, that works out well. There's going to be a pretty decent amount of pitching that goes right now. So I'm just going to queue up some I'm not going to queue up any outfielders. That's not true. I'm going to queue up Jason and Ward. Neither of them should make it to me. And then I'm going to queue up a bunch of infielders here. Bregman has jumped 7 points in the last 2 days. That's amazing. So I'll queue up some infielders, and then I'm going to queue up a bunch of pitchers. Kirby, Webb, Imanaga, Gallen, Green, Castillo, Peralta. It's going to be a really nice run on pitchers coming up here. Taylor, great value for Vientos there at 81. Nice pick. Your team is so well-rounded. Wow, Quan goes all the way at 82. So for me, and for those of you who watched my drafts before, for me, a lot of what I do early is outfield based. It's more like a security blanket for me. So I draft those outfielders to the point where I kind of overdraft outfielders, but I anticipate that 1 or 2 of my outfielders are probably going to get banged. And they're going to end up on the IL. And if that happens, I feel like I can get more depth on the infield side. So having Freeman and Machado right now, having Machado is actually a luxury for me right now. So I'm going to target infielders and a pitcher with these next 2 picks. And we'll see how it plays out. It's very likely that none of the infielders are available, and I just go pitcher. Yeah, you're right. Doyle didn't even make it to me. It's Doyle's been hot. You know, everybody's on the train. There goes Kirby and Webb. That's fantastic. I really like, all those Mariners pitchers are so great in the Eliminator format. So great. I'm a little concerned that I've drafted. I'm getting to the point where I'm drafting too many Eliminator teams, and because obviously we bounce pods so quickly that I'm going to end up with multiple teams and multiple in the same pod. I know that happens with Zuby a lot. And I think Zuby was talking about maxing out his pods at his teams at like 150, because that is the limit for drafting. I am not going to come anywhere near that. I think I'm around 60, but for the most part, that's gonna wrap it up. I do have a visitor right now. My girlfriend's dog rolled in here, which means she probably wants to go outside. So I may need to take a minute. I was going to make a sign yesterday. Should have made a sign. Let me see if I still can. I need like a Sharpie. You know what? I don't even have any tape in here. I can't do this. Can't do it. Max out the bunt. Okay. Yeah. So Taylor was saying he was probably going to max out bunt. I feel like the bunt is it's like a 20 max, right? Because I feel like I maxed out the bunt earlier. By the way, Taylor Ward dropped me, so that is going to be a thing. I'm just going to wrap up my outfield right now. Should I have taken 2 pitchers? Yeah, probably. But I did draft Luis Robert, and if he gets a hangnail, I need to make sure that I have some protection. So I'm good with that. And none of the infielders I wanted were there, so I was going to overdraft. And then when it comes back at 118, I'll just hope I can get like Adley, Vinny, Royce, those kind of guys. But I'll take 2 infielders when it comes back to me. Ooh, Tovar at 97. Watch out. I wasn't even going to take him at 99. This guy's going after it. Okay. So I'm going to take Gallon at 99, by the way. And then I'm going to take a quick break. I'll be right back. I'm just going to take the dog out. So bear with me. Enjoy the draft. There you go. And I'll be back in just a minute. Come on. Whew. And we're back. All right. Did I miss anything exciting? Taylor took PCA and Jorge Soler. Bichette, McLean. Adley went early again. What is this? All right. I had a Reese's peanut butter cup. My girlfriend was nice enough to give me some candy for Valentine's Day. But, people talk about inflation, but nobody talks about deflation because all of our stuff keeps getting smaller. Snickers bar, smaller. Reese's, smaller. Kit Kats, smaller. Nobody talks about that. That's the pressing issue. And it's not like those things like, when you grow up and you go back to like a childhood place and you're like, oh, I thought I remember this room being so much bigger. No, it's not that. I eat Reese's all the time. They literally do get smaller. It is a real thing. I'm just complaining now. Okay. So I got Vinny, but you know what? I'm still going to buy them. They're so good. It's my fault. I'm contributing to the problem, right? Taylor, wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about that the podcast you did yesterday with my guy Hunter. So I think you did one. Is that what I saw? And if you did, feel free to plug it and drop I don't know if you can drop links in here, but feel free to drop a link and say what you guys talked about and how long it was, all that fun stuff. Give people the deets. For me, let's see. I've got two infielders queued up. I'm going to grab one of them. Wouldn't mind grabbing a guy like Ober or Bryce Miller here, but it's not going to happen. Seth Lugo. Okay, so I'm going to get Westy at 123. I also had Paredes queued up. 142 when it comes back. If Volpe is there, I'll grab him. I'll grab Holiday if he's there at 147. And otherwise, I'm grabbing pitching. Pitching is going to be my mantra the rest of the way. Hunter had you on. Good time. Blah, blah, blah. Mostly chat about So Rare. $6,400 from Best Ball. Yeah, you crushed it last year, man. You crushed it. I had a pretty decent NFL season. I always have a learning curve personally. It was my first season playing Best Ball last year, and I think I was down about $500. The second half drafts I did on DraftKings, I crushed. But the full season ones, I just, a lot of them, I joined too early. I felt like my pitching staffs were getting crushed before opening day even happened. And it was just not good. So I'm trying to be a lot more strategic about it. I'm trying to only draft a few times if I feel like I have a bit of an advantage before leagues fill. And then as they get closer to filling, then I'll jump in. Eliminator is a little different because when I started tracking it, I realized, okay, it's probably going to fill before spring training or the first week of spring training. So we're all going to be on the same footing. Whereas like if you draft Dinger right now, Dinger's probably not going to fill until the last week or the second to last week of spring training. So there's definitely going to be an advantage to people who are drafting those later because they're going to, you're going to have a few things happen. One is going to be injuries. The other thing that's going to happen is going to be hype. You're going to have remember O'Neal Cruz was going absolutely nuts last year during spring, and all of a sudden he jumped up to like the second and third rounds because people were getting so hyped about it. And that'll happen. I do expect guys like Jackson Holiday to play well in the spring and kind of get hyped, and we'll see those guys start to bounce up. But the one thing about spring training, you don't trust it. You just can't trust spring training numbers. So it's great that a guy wins a job, but at the end of the day, it's not valuable enough to be able to change your draft philosophy. Yeah, good for you, Taylor. I entered too many dingers early. So, and then I pivoted. So what I did is I ended up doing most of my underdog drafts. And then with like 2 weeks to go, I just switched over to DraftKings. I didn't want to go back and forth between the two because of the point systems. But, and my DraftKings teams were decent. But, the problem with DraftKings is the rake is brutal. Most of the time, unless you're in the high dollar groups, the rake is just not great. I mean, it's like 15%, whereas the rake typically on underdog is between like 9 and 12. So you really need to win, not just like win your first group. Like you need to get to the semifinal or the final in DraftKings to make it worth it. The mid-season, I ended up advancing like 70% of my teams in DraftKings. And so I was able to make up for some poor decisions I had at underdog. Oh, yeah, Taylor, for sure. Taylor was saying that the one he won $6,000 is because he had Merrill. Merrill, for the most part, was just going undrafted because we didn't know that he was going to be able to make the transition from shortstop to outfield, and that if he made that transition, he was going to hit. And the Padres have such a terrible history of developing offensive players that it wasn't going to make a ton of sense. I mean, I didn't draft him a single time, and I watched him play just as much as anybody out there. But he's the real deal. And when you can draft a guy who's going to score 1,200 points in the 20th round, that's obviously going to give you a huge leg up on things. Okay, so it gets to me. I'm going to go Rodon. I feel like most of my guys on the back end weren't high upside guys. Most of my guys that I was taking on the back end were like Andrew Vaughn types. And I had way too much exposure with guys like Casas, Torkelson, and McLean. A ton of exposure. I had one of those guys almost every single team. So, and obviously we know McLean didn't play all year. We know Torkelson was trash until the last month in the season, and then he was respectable. And Casas was solid when he played. He just didn't play enough. Excuse me. But yeah, you crushed it last year. So props, congratulations, man. You really had a great year. So I'm hoping. I know Zuby did really well on the playoff football stuff. I didn't do a lot of playoff football because I don't like the 16 drafts, honestly. How does my infield look? Okay, I'm actually going to overdraft right now. I don't do this often, but I'm going to take a rise. And the main reason why is because I need, I mean, I could take Joe Ryan, but I'm just going to take a rise. Guys like Quan, guys like Arise, in Eliminator, they do a really nice job of setting a high floor for you. And ideally, you never want to have them be in your top 3, but at least they set a high floor for you, and I think that helps out a lot. So I do like grabbing guys like Arise, like Steve Kwan occasionally. So I'm going to overdraft Arise here just because I didn't love taking Joe Ryan there. I had Joe Ryan and Jack Flaherty queued up. Flaherty got picked, and I passed on Ryan. So because I knew Arise a couple days ago, he was making it back to me at 165 through 170. But lately, he's been getting drafted earlier, and I just didn't want to deal with it. He's not a guy I typically touch in a season long, but this is a little different. Yeah, I had Twizzlers too earlier. Oh, okay. So for me, let's see what this team looks like. Obviously, I closed out my outfielders early. I've got 5 infielders right now. My infielders are actually really solid. Freeman, Machado, Vinny, Westy, and Arise. I might go like in that 190 range. I might look at another infielder. For the most part, I'm going to try to queue up as many pitchers as I can for 3 of the next 4 picks. So we're talking Arrighetti, Gore, Keller, Bradley, Barrios. I'm going to hopefully get 2 out of those 5. That's the plan. Pitchers have been getting taken earlier, though, so there is a chance I might only get 1 of them. All right, how are we looking? So Taylor, you grabbed Paredes. The more I dove in on Paredes, his swing is going to be beautiful for that ballpark. And I can understand why the Astros, Walker and Paredes, their swings are perfect for the Crawford boxes. So I could see why the Astros didn't want to pay Bregman, because they're going to get better production out of those 2 players that they brought in at much less cost. So it just makes a lot of sense. I've taken Paredes a decent amount. I have not taken Christian Walker that much. It just hasn't worked out. But I think both of them are going to have really nice seasons. It's kind of interesting with the Astros, though. When you look at the Astros, and there's no Tucker and there's no Bregman. It was kind of weird when the Astros lost Springer, but now losing Bregman and Tucker, I mean, Tucker's a huge loss. Their outfield's going to be a little wonky for sure. I thought McCormick was going to have a nice year last year, and then he started slow and he was a little banged up, and he just couldn't right the ship. So right now, their outfielders, according to Roster Resource, are hitting 7, 8, and 9. McCormick, Gamble, and Myers. That's wild. That has to be the only team in the league that projects their outfield to be in the bottom, the bottom of their order, the bottom third. Let me see what. Gosh, there's got to be a deal to be made, right? And they traded their number 1 outfield prospect to the Blue Jays last year in the Kikuchi deal. Okay, there goes Gorn Arrighetti. So the Blue Jays do not have him slated for some reason. Why am I not seeing this guy? Now I got to dig in. Okay, we know Varsho's hurt. Yeah, Luperfido. They've got him slated to not make the team. Roster Resource does. Fangraphs has Luperfido slated to not make the team. Interesting. Okay, it's almost to me. What do we got? We have 3 pitchers queued up. We have this worked out well. Okay, so I'm going to grab Keller right here. And keep in mind, I only have 2 pitchers. So Keller's my 3rd pitcher. I really need to step on the gas here on the pitching. My infield is solid. My outfield is fantastic. There's not necessarily an outfielder or an infielder that I would take right here. Hey, Taylor, since I have you, I think this is a great opportunity. Obviously, you've dealt with Bud Black for a handful of years in Colorado now. I dealt with him for the first part of his coaching career in San Diego. With Talia, are they talking about platooning him with Chris Bryant at first base? Are they talking about Bryant just being the DH. I mean, I feel like I know we talked about Talia last year, and I was like, I like this guy. I just feel like he's not going to get enough run. And he got enough run last year and he produced. But Buddy always does weird stuff. So is he a guy who's going to play every day, or are they worried he's not going to be able to hit left-handed pitching? Like what's the skinny on him? And I know that they brought in Estrada to play second base. I'm sure, I would imagine Brandon Rogers was a bit of a fan favorite, so watching him go was probably not great. But I'm curious if they're going to try to like work Beck in there somehow. Obviously, Nolan Jones coming back. Doyle had a great year. I'm talking about the Rockies right now without any information in front of me. They've got Hilliard slated for right field. So are they just going to – they're not going to have Beck sit on the bench. I would imagine that's just not going to be an option. So he's either going to play at AAA or he's going to start. But anyway, give me your thoughts on that. Burke has 9 infielders. Yeah, Burke's auto drafting, so he's done. He just lit $5 on fire. Okay, cool. So they're going to give him every day at bats. They're going to try to DH Bryant. That's what they should do. I mean, they should just DH Bryant. Wrap him up in bubble wrap and just DH him. And hopefully he can give you 400 at bats. I'm still shocked that the Rockies paid Chris Bryant because they were bidding against themselves. It was the most ridiculous thing. Like, hey, you traded Nolan Arenado, who everybody loved, and then you gave his money to Chris Bryant, who can't stay healthy. Like, boy, you wonder how guys, one, are competent enough to get these jobs, and then two, somehow keep these jobs. But yeah, it's just like, what are you doing? Don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm in San Diego, and Preller does a ton of stupid things. But that Chris Bryant signing after trading Arenado, oof. Estrella's going to play second until Amador's ready. I'm assuming that's some hot prospect. I do not follow minor leagues as like I used to. Estrada, is he a shortstop? Is he a Amador? Oh, there's Amador. Okay. 7 rank, blah, blah, blah. 21 years old. He's a AAA. Oh, so he could be close. AAA is not at Colorado Springs anymore, right? Where's the AAA for the Rockies these days? Excuse me. I think I drafted Estrada in one draft, like a 20th round guy. The hell? Josh Young and Xander Bogaerts going early? Whoa, does he have he didn't just draft 10, did he? No. Okay. For some reason, I thought JCH Lawyer was Burke for a second. And JCH Lawyer has 7 outfielders already. That's a little excessive. All right, so I'm going to queue up Bassett. Let's see if I really like Nico here. I like Neto, but I think I can wait on him. Evaldi, Tanner Hawk. All these pitchers are going to have to go early, which I don't love, but we'll see how it plays out. I'd really like to grab Nico Horner, and then I can just wrap up second base, and I'll go 8 pitchers. I don't think it's a great strategy to go 8 pitchers, by the way. But, oh my gosh, Pavetta at 189. Okay, that's a thing. Okay, so I'm going to take Nico. What are they talking about? I'll just read this. Cubs manager Craig Counsell said Monday that Horner is in a great spot and is not going to miss much time, if at all. Horner underwent flexor tendon surgery in October, but he has progressed to throwing and hitting, and he continues his recovery. It's not clear when the second baseman might be ready for his Cactus League debut, but it's looking at this stage of his rehab like Horner has a good shot at avoiding a stint on the injured list to begin the season. I hate to admit this, but I had no idea he was hurt. But I do like Rico. I like Nico. I think if he can potentially hit 6th or even at the first or second spot of that lineup, I'll have a huge impact. Okay, there goes Bassett. I like Neto too, but Neto. But we don't know if he's going to start on the IL, if he's going to miss the first month of the season. But I like Nico. I hope he starts running again. Okay, my plan is to take Tanner Hawk Tua here. Man, Pavetta up 30 spots. That's impressive. Okay, so my terrible pitching staff right now is Gallen, Gallen, Rodon, Keller, Bradley, and Hawk. I don't have a cough button, so I apologize. I'm just clearing my throat on you. Albuquerque. Who the ball flies up there too? Yeah, the funny thing with Black, with Buddy, is his disgust for playing rookies. He will play a very average veteran over a high upside rookie. And it would always drive all of us nuts. And he'll platoon a rookie, and a rookie will debut, and he'll like pinch hit him. He just he's an amazing politician. Taylor, I'm sure you've heard me talk about Buddy before, but he is an amazing politician. He'll always make you feel like you're seen. He always remembers your name. Yes, like Jay Cave, exactly. But at the end of the day, he's a terrible manager. If you play for him and you don't care about winning, he's awesome because he will let you do anything you want to do. He pays no attention to the clubhouse. He feels like the players should manage their own clubhouse and blah, 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 blah. But keep in mind, he's a former pitcher, and pitchers typically are not good managers. He just plays that politics game so good that he gets to go places. And in Colorado, he went there, had a good roster, made the playoffs, which is more than he did in San Diego. In San Diego, he inherited a playoff team, never made the playoffs. His culture always sets in, and then guys they do their own thing, and the teams don't win. That's just who he is, unfortunately. Great pitching coach. I think he'd be a very interesting general manager, front office guy, but he's just a terrible manager. Terrible. So I cannot tell you the amount of players who also would just complain that he seems like he's checked out all the time. Like I said, he'll always make you feel seen. He just does not hold guys accountable and does not breed a winning culture. Just unfortunately who he is. Yeah, maybe he'll be good for the pitching. We'll see. I mean, we never really developed young pitching under him in San Diego. So, um, the crafty lefty. I'm trying to remember who. I mean, we had Latos. We signed James Shields, and he went. And we just there's not a guy I can think of under. I guess maybe Andrew Kashner, who was supposed to be like a rock star when we got him, and just kind of had his moments. Kind of like a Michael King situation, I guess, because he was in the bullpen in Chicago when they swapped him for Rizzo. But oh my God, Michael Bush at 206. What the hell? Um, but yeah, he just really never developed pitching. Now, granted, AJ Preller, of course, did trade a lot of it, but it was just not. He's not a developer. If you give him a veteran team with leaders, he'll be fine. But if you give him a team that he's got to mold and develop and hold accountable, I mean, we have like 15 years. I think he's the active manager with the most losses in baseball, I believe. There's another manager who sucks. Morel over in St. Louis is terrible. I don't trust him. I just don't trust him to manage guys. Oh, I do not like any of these pitchers. Okay, I may take another infielder here. Where are we at? Okay, I'm going to take Terang. I wasn't planning on taking another infielder, but these guys did a great job of sweeping up pitchers. So let me cue up my stalwarts here. Kelly, Waka. There's normally one more guy I queue up. Kelly, Waka. Oh, by the way, really tough decision for me between Terang and Contreras. With Contreras playing first base, he finally might play 150 games, and the guy could absolutely rake. He's going to be the cleanup hitter for the Cardinals, so he could put up some really fantastic numbers. He could be a 1,300, 1,400 point guy. I took Terang because it's Eliminator, so I feel like Terang has a higher floor than Contreras because Contreras really likes to run into pitches with his hands sometimes, and that's annoying as hell. I don't want to grab Walker Buehler right here, but I might have to. Oh, okay. So I'm going to end up taking Merrill Kelly. I've got Waka queued up. I don't expect Waka to get to me. All these guys are about the same. Gavin Williams, Brady Singer, Luis Seravino, Eric Fedde. I wouldn't take Scherzer, Reese Olson, Ranger Suarez. These guys are all the same. Nestor Cortez, blah, 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 blah. There's Charlie Morton. I normally queue him up. Do get a little worried about his age. Oh, this isn't good. Okay. Okay, let me get back on track here. So we are wrapping up here. Yeah, Terang's 50 bags last year. Yeah, it's just the only thing I worry about with Terang is he's going to be hitting at the bottom of the order. Obviously, when Chiriot struggled last year, Turang hit at the top of the order, but now that Chirios turned it on, I feel like Turang's going to be relegated. So roster resource says Turang hitting 7th. It's not ideal, but I mean, that could obviously change if Yelich, or if and when Yelich gets hurt. They can end up moving Turang to the top of the order, having him hit 2nd, or even having him hit 1st and swap. Well, we'll see how Garrett Mitchell plays. But I can see how they would definitely want to be able to switch some guys around. There you go, Taylor. Grab Contreras. Not another infielder taken since. Interesting. Since my pick at 219. Carlos Correa, that's a guy who puts up decent points if he's healthy. So I'm going to look at a pitcher here. This will be my 7th. So I wrapped up infielders. I went with Turang. But my infield looks solid. Freeman, Machado, Vanny Westy, Arise, Horner, and Turang. My outfield looks fantastic. Soto, Rooker, Arozarena, Kowser, Luis Robert, Taylor Ward. Little asterisk on Luis Robert. The pitching is what you would expect the pitching to be because the hitting is so good. The pitching is a little sketch. I've got Gallen, Rodon, Keller, Bradley, Tanner Hawk, and Merrill Kelly. I'll draft one more pitcher right now. I've got a couple guys queued up. Like I said, at this point, they're pretty much all the same guys. I mean, unless you think you're going to get real cute and you want to draft like Bieber and hope that works out. He's slated for mound work soon. I'll read this little blurb. Bieber scheduled to begin throwing off a mound in mid-February. Bieber's progressed to playing catch 5 times per week and has expanded the distance out to 120 feet. The veteran right-hander had Tommy John surgery last April and is not expected to be back until midseason. So he's going to come back midseason and not be good. But I have seen him picked a few times anyway. Kershaw signed. I think Kershaw is actually healthy. What? Okay, Kershaw just signed his contract and is already expected to go on the 60-day IL. Kershaw, toe knee injury, said Thursday he expects to be placed on the 60-day injured list, but is hopeful of being ready once those 60 days are up. 60 days from now would, of course, put him in the middle of April. Fabian Odaya of The Athletic reports Kershaw underwent surgery on both his left knee and left toe during the offseason, but he passed a physical and his 1-year, $7.5 million contract with the Dodgers became official Thursday. Future Hall of Famer has been thrown on flat ground, but it's not clear when he might be ready for mound work. Kershaw will be brought along slowly, which is luxury of the Dodgers, blah, 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 blah. Because he's like the 7th starting pitcher on the Dodgers. Must be nice. Must be nice. Okay, Charlie Morton's still there. Taylor, you took Fede. That's as Jump Shoot likes to say, that's oatmeal. Like he's not gonna be anything exciting, but he'll get the job done. So I've got so Waka went at 234. I like to take Waka. Charlie Morton's here. Of course, I do get a little worried about Morton getting long in the tooth. Why do I feel like Charlie Morton is like 42 years old? I mean, he was supposed to retire like 4 years ago. Okay, he's 41. But I'm actually going to take looks like he's a little banged up right now, but I feel like he's a nice pick. He's 28. He had 15 quality starts last year. And took it on 10 a lot, 16 losses. But 175 strikeouts and 183 innings. So, if he can get me a couple decent starts here and there, then, it's really all you need from the 7th guy. So anyway, that's going to wrap it up. Hope you guys had a good time. If you're watching on the replay, this is a super long stream, over 2 hours. Taylor, I appreciate you jumping in with me. It was a great time. You had a fantastic draft. Congratulations. So we'll both look at moving forward and watching J.R. Burke not, and I'm not sure who has the second worst team. but it's pretty obvious J.R. Burke has the worst team on this draft. Anyway, if you guys have questions, feel free to hit me up on Blue Sky at Steve Adler or Twitter, Steve_Adler. I'll likely not stream until Monday because probably Tuesday since Monday's a holiday. So have a great holiday weekend, everybody, and I'll catch up with you later.